Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me cosplayer Luvkii Cosplay. I'm not too sure how it's supposed to be said, who hails from the land down under. So in my time, it's Saturday, in your time, it's Sunday morning. Obviously, we're either time traveling or something. We're bending the time space continuum here. So welcome to the show.
Good to be on. Thank you for having me. G'day to everyone.
Well, I'm excited because I like doing people from all over the world. I like talking to people. Obviously, my two interviews, somebody was from Florida, somebody was from out west, and obviously now I'm going to a whole new country. And there's a lot to talk about because you have a lot of cosplays. But I think the best
Yeah.
place to start with is, how did you get into cosplay?
I started cosplaying when I was maybe 13 years old, and it was just a good way to be social in like middle school. So we had a group of friends and we'd all go to cons, and like that was just our whole life. We'd watch anime together at lunchtime, and then, you just make friendships that last until now. My best friend from middle school, we still cosplay together. It's a big childhood dream.
So I want to talk a little bit about that because in America, where I'm from, it's very different. There's a lot of anime cons in this country. I think there's like 1,800, and I don't know how many there are in Australia. I don't know what the anime scene is like in Australia. I don't know what the Comic-Con pop culture scene in America. It's running rampant. I mean, every weekend and every week it's Comic-Con in New York City to some degree somewhere. And obviously something's happening in the pop culture sphere. And in a few other places it's very similar. So what is it like in Australia before we dive into some of your cosplay stuff?
Yeah. Oh my God, you guys, it makes me so jealous when I hear you have so many. We have our Supernova, which is our main basic generic Comic Con convention, like the most Comic Con like. We do have a branch of Comic Con called Oz Comic Con, but it's kind of new emerging, has been around for like 5 years or so. And then we have Madman Anime Festival, and then we have Smash, and that's it. That we have about four main conventions, and then we might have some small offshoots, but those are like the big ones. So maybe depending on what state you live in, you'll probably have about 5 cons a year.
And even going into the anime, and I know that obviously there are different countries that have different restrictions on what's available streaming wise. And I know Crunchyroll for anime, Funimation, I know both of those things are worldwide, and there's not a language barrier. Obviously, Australia speaks English, whether that's British English or American English, I'm not too sure, but I think you understand both. I think, Americans understand British English and they also understand American English, and I would imagine Australians also understand that as well. So obviously language isn't a barrier, but what is it like, what's available anime wise, and also when it comes over and all that stuff, or is it just similar to America in that front?
Yeah, I think it's quite similar. We have services like Anime Lab as well. I don't know if you guys have that as well. I think it's more or less probably the same. We probably have less options because we are in Oceania, but I think we get earlier releases because we're closer to Japan. I could be wrong, could be talking out of my butt about that, but I think that's kind of the case.
And no, I was just curious because obviously I don't know much about that. Obviously in America, I watch a lot of Crunchyroll. I watch a lot of, subtitled anime, and I watch when it comes out on Saturday. And so after an hour it gets released. That's how I watch all my anime. And
Mm,
I'm spoiled. I pay for it. It's $80 a year. It's the best $80 I spent all year. Um,
100%.
and that's pretty quick. And I don't even know anything about dubbing anymore. Done with the anime and dubs. I'm just done with it. Just don't tell anybody because all these voice actors who I'm trying to get on this show are not going to be happy with me on that front. But I do want to dive into some of your cosplays, and I am curious, what was your first cosplay that you did?
I think my first cosplay was Hikaru from Oran High School Host Club. I feel like when you're an anime fan in the early 2000s, 2010s, it's always like Oran High School Host Club, Black Butler, Naruto. It's like the big the big three basically.
So obviously, I do want to talk about this one because Oron High School Host Club is a fascinating show. It's not meant for probably teenagers. It's really not. It
Mm,
is a reverse harem. I think it's a good way to put it. You know, you have a bunch of guys fanning over a girl. And
Hmm.
they're on a host club that's men, and that's the whole thing. So, what prompted this cosplay, and what was the build like on it, and what's the inspiration for this one in particular?
For my first ever cosplay, I would have been like 13 years old, 12, something like that.
Even
And I
more
think,
appropriate now for you to do this. Clearly, clearly.
yeah. It was just what everyone was watching at the time. Like all of my friends, we used to give ourselves like who our favorite host was, and we'd write fan fiction and send it to each other. I think my parents gave me a voucher to buy my cosplay off eBay. That's how old we're talking, when people used to buy their stuff off eBay. Um, wasn't much build involved with this. I was really new to it. I didn't even wear a wig cap. But you know, you come so far. It's actually quite funny to look back on like your first ever one and go, "Oh, what was I thinking?"
So to talk about this, because this actually gets us into where I want to be a little bit and talk inside baseball.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's two sides to cosplay. And then there's actually three because it's the hybrid of the two. So people sometimes buy their cosplays, and
Hmm.
sometimes people make them. And I personally don't have an issue either way. I think cosplay is cosplay. I think, you know, some people say, hey, it's cheaper for me to buy something and then wear it and have a good time and embrace that character, which I think is great, and that's cool. And then people say, hey, you know, I want to make it because I enjoy the experience of sewing it. And obviously, you bought your first one. So what was that like, figuring out your measurements and figuring out making sure it fits, and then also modifying it, because it is an art when you're doing that. And we're going to dive into some stuff in a little bit that plays to that, in particular on prop building. But
Mm.
what was that like, figuring all that stuff out? Because it is an art and it's tricky, and there's nothing wrong either way doing which one people choose. And then also, obviously, the third option that people do is that, well, they'll make the jacket, but, you know, they'll style the wig themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And whether you buy or make your own cosplay, both are completely great options. For me personally, my making of a cosplay will be like, do I have the time to do it? Do I have the resources to do it? Is this something that I'm passionate about enough that I want to build it myself? For instance, like for a school uniform for a group cosplay, I will just buy it so everyone can have the exact same and we look really consistent. But for something like something I want to bring to a convention as like my big showstopper, I'll try to make everything from hand. So it's definitely just a matter of personal preference and also the resources that you have at your hand. I've moved house a few times, so trying to make cosplay while things are in boxes and out of boxes, it's just like impossible. But
Oh, I know
yeah.
all about boxes. I run a
Yes.
big business. I have a lot of comics I sell, and they're all in boxes, so I get boxing. I completely understand packing up and moving. It's difficult without any of that, and I can imagine building a cosplay in the middle of moving and moving housings, as you say, which is, I love the way you say it, can be probably a pain in the ass.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny as well, like when you are moving, you like open up your old boxes and you're like, I don't even have any memory of cosplaying this character, but I somehow have it in the bottom of all of my things.
So to even go further off of this, because obviously you've done a lot of cosplays, and we're going to get into some of them in a minute here. But
Sure.
where do your ideas come from, and where do your inspirations come from? And even once you have your inspiration, how do you even start that creative process and get the wheels spinning? Because, you know, obviously everybody has a different creation process on how they get inspired and then start building their cosplays.
Yeah, I think my inspiration starts when I finish a series, and I'm usually most motivated by other people wanting to join me. I love group cosplays. I love cosplaying with my partner. It just knowing that I have someone to bounce off and be like share my excitement is
Table
the
that,
best
'cause we're going to
feeling.
talk a lot about that.
Yeah, sure. So
I promise. I promise we're going to talk about it, but I love it. I love the fact that you cosplay sometimes in groups, and you have obviously your partner, and then also you cosplay with your friend. And we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about it, I
yeah,
promise. But even like,
totally.
I love the fact that you have somebody to cosplay with.
For For
because
sure,
it adds
yeah.
a dimension to it. But continue. Sorry for interrupting.
That's all good. So pin in that. From there, I start by doing the base costume, like the easiest bits. I kind of knock out patterning. I do all of that as well, and then it's just kind of a matter of like, what do I have time to do? I work full-time job. I'm in this like idol group, so it's usually just about finding the right time to do things. I'm usually an all-nighter kind of person. So I just try to knock through the big clunky stuff, and then the little accessories can all just be sprinkled in between, I think.
So to even go further off of that, because one of the things that I think most cosplayers find the most challenging is finding materials.
Yes.
And this goes back to sometimes why you buy a cosplay, because if it's already done for you, it can be very, very difficult, in certain circumstances to find materials. It could be very, very expensive to get those materials. Also substituting materials, because certain materials are more expensive than others, and also quality of materials matters. And so how do you balance all of that of just defining, and also how do you balance all the costs? Because it's
Yeah.
expensive. And then COVID has thrown a monkey wrench into all of this, because in the US, there hasn't been many shortages of supplies. But I know internationally, I know in the UK there's been issues, and I know in Australia there's been issues. So how have you dealt with that during COVID?
Yeah, during COVID, it's made shipping to Australia quite expensive. I usually bulk buy fabric from a site called Taobao, which is just a Chinese reseller. If lately I've just kind of been putting a little pin in doing anything really big right now, just because of how expensive it is, and there's no conventions to really go to show off your work. So all of my cosplays that I've had since COVID have been just like little school uniforms that I can, take photos of with my friends. But in terms of locally sourcing, I'm a big fan of op shops, Vinnies, what would you call it? A thrift store? Places like that usually have a haberdashery section, and also turning my old cosplays into my new cosplays, turning old shoes and old boots into new things.
So you
That
upcycle.
means that saves
Got to
space.
upcycle. Got to take the Billy Porter
Upcycling,
approach.
100%, yeah.
He took the curtain of kinky boots and turned it into his gala attire, apparently.
100%, yes, that's so true. Basically, like my most recent cosplay I did Hatsune Miku, I used my old work shoes. They were like little ankle boots, and they were just looking ratty and disgusting. And my partner had this stretchy latex material left over from a different cosplay. So I just used all those resources, and I didn't have to spend a cent, and I got nice boots out of it. Which is a win. It's a win. It's a 10 out of 10.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with the creative process, and I kind of want to dive into some of your cosplays now. And
Yeah.
we're going to be a little scattered shot, but I think it's going to make sense at the end of the entire interview at this point. So one of the ones I kind of want to start with, beyond your first one, is talking about Steven Universe and your Opal.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Man, that was
And
so
this one
long ago.
is very handsy, if you will.
I
I've been
see
wanting
what
to
you
do this
did
show.
there. Yeah.
If anybody goes on your Instagram, they're going to see this. I know you made a tutorial on the hands, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. So for those who don't know, your Opal has many hands.
Yes, it
And,
does.
and so what was that like, building those hands and having that? Because I think the clothing on Opal is probably the easy part of that cosplay. And I
It's
think
so true.
building the extra hands is the complicated part. And I know that you wound up building it, and then you made a tutorial on it. And I know what prompted the tutorial, and what was that build like, building those extra hands and making them work, because obviously it can be tricky to have another set of hands and making them sturdy. And I don't know if that's a prop or where that falls under in the entire cosplay scheme of things.
Yeah, so that was one of the first cosplays that I made by myself. The hands came off of a jewelry mannequin, and they were squishy and bendable, so I could move the fingers. And then it's just a matter of like, I'd find random bits in my house and be like, oh, I can make this out of this, and I would make like a cast out of my arm and just fill it with stuffing. The reason I made a tutorial was because I just got so many questions asking how I did it. And I was like, look, it's not perfect. It's a bit gross the way I did it, but it's how it is. I got an old sports bra and I cut holes in the sides to add the arms into. It wasn't a perfect scheme, but I had so many people asking me how I did it that I thought, well, if you want to give it a try, this is how I do it. And I'm sure there's ways of improving on that method even now as I look back on that. So yeah, basically that's why.
So where did the idea even come from for doing that, or was that just completely trial and error? Saying, hey, I can see that this jewelry mannequin has what I need. How do I attach it? And then you just sort of say, okay, how do I go about doing this? Do you ask for people for help? Do you ask for suggestions? Do you go to certain cosplayers? I mean, I've asked people on eBay how to handle circumstances in comic groups. And obviously, I'm not saying eBay, selling a comic book and doing Opal's hands are the same thing, but the idea of who do you turn to sometimes is kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah, well, the inspiration came from there was a cosplayer who did full mannequin arms, which are much heavier and they're plastic all the way through, so they're not bendable. And I was like, that's a really smart idea, mannequin arms and hands. That's great. And then I thought, how can I make this a little bit softer on myself? So they were made out of like fluff and stuffing instead of plastic, and that just makes everything so much lighter. So it really just comes off like bouncing ideas off of what I've already seen and thinking, how can I make this suit myself? That one was all 100% my own thought process. But now I think I definitely lean on my friends who are way more skilled at things like sewing and the finer details. They just have that little bit more expertise with things. So yes, definitely reaching out to peers is a good way of getting yourself off the ground.
And then also Opal has her bow.
Mm,
And that's a big bow.
yeah,
And obviously, the world has changed in America. That would probably never be allowed in a con.
really? Is that true?
Depending on the convention, they might not allow it. it
Wow.
a lot of props have changed in America. A lot of things have gone weird. They also don't allow stringed bows sometimes in conventions. And so American cons are very, very complicated in that realm. It also depends on who you're cosplaying as. It also depends on who's checking your stuff, because I've been treated really well at cons. And I'm not a cosplayer. I'm a panelist. Who's checking you in can make a difference. So
Yeah, there you go.
you can get away with murder with some people, and some people are going to give you a hard time. But what was that like building that? Because that's a big prop in many ways.
Yeah, that was pretty the way that I got around. We don't have bow restrictions, but we do have height and length limitations for conventions. So my bow came apart by the handle, so it was actually three pieces that screw in together.
Oh,
So when I'm like,
you snuck it in.
no, I didn't bring it into like the con floor, but outside the convention, you can do whatever you want. It's just not in the hall that you can have these things. So when I wasn't in the convention hall, I just take it down, collapse it, put it with weapons check, and then when I wanted to take it out, bring it out, clip it all together, and then I had a meter and a half of bow to work with. Yeah, so that was all PVC pipe, expanding foam, plasti dip, stuff like that. Paper mache.
That's crazy.
Mm,
So see, in America, I don't even know if they would allow you to bring it into even weapons check, because most of the time
really?
they might not allow it. You pass the door of the con. It's crazy in America.
There
It
you
also all
go.
depends on where you're at, what con you're at. It's kind of crazy, but there's been good reasons for it.
Yeah.
There are cons that have metal detectors in America now.
Mm. Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, nothing like that. We do have basically just rules about like pointy things as well. Nothing sharp can go into the convention. Obviously, you don't want to be taking anyone's eye out. But yeah, way more relaxed than that. And I thought my conventions were strict. Like, let me bring this in. I'm not going to hit anyone.
American conventions are weird because
Mm.
every con has different rules, and every con is also different. And then there's cons that don't have any cosplay attached to them because they're legitimately small common cons.
There you go.
It's a wild free for all. But I do want to talk more about your cosplays, because this isn't about American cons. That's a whole different podcast. So I do want to talk about Team Skull, because you had a Guzma.
Yes, I did.
And,
Yeah.
and and this one's interesting because you made a good chunk of it, but I don't think you made the glasses that
Yes.
Guzma does. You commissioned those out, and
I
so
did.
what inspired Guzma, and then what was that like doing Team Skull, and then what was it like even just figuring out, hey, okay, I'm good at this, but I'm not bad at this, and then you also had, I guess, your friend from middle school, I guess, was your I guess Flumera, I want to
Yeah,
say.
that's correct. Yeah.
I've been so out of Pokemon for years. The last thing I played was Black and White one, and so I've been out of it for a long time. But even still, I know much about Pokemon. I still have the cards, still play with my cards. Just got my cinnamon toast. 25 years, bought like 6 boxes. I got the ponyta, everybody. I got the ponyta. I want to make that clear. After 3 boxes, I got the ponyta. I want to make that clear. I sold the ponyta
Right
on eBay.
on.
That's not the point here. No, I didn't sell it on eBay. I don't make that clear. But anyway, what's the story behind this entire process? After
Yeah,
my
so I Pokemon was the first game I ever got when I was a kid, and I used to wake up early and sneak downstairs to watch it on TV. I've always loved Pokemon. I play every single game. I've always wanted to do a Pokemon cosplay, and Sun and Moon came out, and I just adored Guzma. I love Team Skull; they're so fun. That cosplay, I made everything. So I made both of Guzma and Plumeria's costumes. The only thing I didn't make was the glasses, and that's because specifically I wanted that sharp, reflective kind of plastic, which is something you can only really get. It's an acrylic cut, and I just simply just do not have the tools at my disposal to make a reflective acrylic surface by myself, so had to outsource. And that was simply just like a personal preference. I know some people make them out of like cardboard or expanding foam, and they make them kind of like a softer aesthetic. It's just for me personally, I wanted something that was reflective. Just a personal preference when it comes to like aesthetics for me.
what is that like to outsource it, make sure it fits, make sure you're getting what you want, and even where do you go to find that? Because I know there's Etsy, I know there's Facebook groups, I know there's companies. I interviewed somebody who's a cosplayer, and they have a company where they do a lot of cosplay commission stuff for people, and Superheroes Unlimited. I don't know if they're still in business, but they're in the U.S. So where do you even go saying, hey, I want this, and what do? Do you just like go into a Facebook group and see who's doing something like this, or like what's the
Yeah.
deal? Do you go on eBay, or do you just call a bunch of your friends, or do you like because I don't know how you get something like this done.
Yeah, so I guess that's just part of my process. I usually follow other cosplayers who also do the same character, and I get lots of inspiration from outside sources. And when they say, "Oh, I commissioned this person to make my glasses," I'm like, I really love that person's work, and I go to their social media, and then that's just a good way of keeping money and resources within the cosplay community for people who do take commissions rather than outsourcing to like a reseller or like an eBay site. It's really good to go for local businesses, local talent.
But
The glasses
even
that I
still,
commissioned,
and I
yes,
hate to interrupt, but I'm curious. Like, there's must be like 3 or 4 people who do this type of work at that point.
yeah,
And so, like, how do you say, okay, I like this person, or do you get rates? Do you compare, or is there like because that's what I'm curious about because I'm in the eBay business, and
yeah,
sometimes nobody's selling the book I'm selling, which means I
mm,
get to set the price. I just actually sold the book about 3 hours ago, and nobody's selling it on eBay. And so I'm the
yeah,
first to market. So it's nice when I'm in that position. But I also have competition. And when I have
yes.
competition and we're all selling the book, I got to match what everybody else is doing, or I got to undercut them, or I got to make the deal sweeter somehow. So obviously, how do you figure out saying, hey, okay, this person, I want to go with this person over this person? Because that's where I'm curious on how you figure that out.
Yeah, I think my decision making process is just like you said, it's about like comparing, seeing whose product fits what you need the best. I love to talk to other cosplayers who have bought from that person. I go, what was your experience? Like, did you like it? What's the products like? I just happen to be friends with the people who did buy from them, and they're like, couldn't recommend it more. I love to buy from people where I can get reviews out of other people to just know what I'm getting myself into.
And then to even go further, because obviously you made the jacket. Obviously, I think Guzma has a necklace. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that that was easily picked up, right?
Yeah. No, so I
That's
made all those things. Yeah.
and then obviously you had a Plumera who
Mm.
is Reina.Cos. I think
Yeah, yeah.
her
Rinya,
Instagram
yeah.
handle. I don't know her name. So I'm sure you're going to tell us in a second here. But what was that like, having another person to cosplay with, having somebody to, I guess, go off of, somebody to match Guzma and make that character pop out more? Because alone Guzma would have been, very, very prevalent at the time, but also having somebody solidifies that more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Rinya, yeah, we've known each other for like 10 years now. We met when we were 13. She is my best friend. We always cosplay together, and my I'd already made Plumeria just because I love that character too. And I'm like, I have two cosplays, and I wanted to put her specifically in this character. And she was like, don't know anything about the game, just put me in whatever you want, which is what we do sometimes. So yeah, I definitely get more excited and more inspiration when I know I have another person to volley off. Photo shoots usually tend to be more fun when there's two people.
And then there's a really cool photo with you and a bunch of plumerias
Yeah.
around. And that's just a funny thing. And I don't know anything about Sun and Moons. I don't know if there's more than one plumeria. I really don't know. So I'm like the worst person to do this question here, because I am very extremely ignorant on Sun and Moon Pokemon. I dropped after Black and White, as I stated. So what was that photo like, though? Because it's kind of a crazy photo out on Instagram that I was going through to build this entire interview. So what was that like, doing all that? 'Cause that's like just like one of those moments that can only happen at an anime con.
Yes, yeah, that was so fun. That was Smash 2019, I want to say. At that convention, it was freezing cold, and we do it at this like that was at the old venue, which is like this racehorse track. And then we just used like the show building, and it was freezing cold, and I was just wearing this like sports bra, and I'm like huddled to myself like this. Sun and Moon was hugely popular at the time, so there were so many different people cosplaying from it, like cosplaying the grunts, and it was just like, you there, you there, you there, come over here, and we all just like get together. And that's like the best thing about conventions, is seeing like-minded people who also love what you're into, and then just like the energy from being excited and passionate about Pokemon. So we all got together, like squat photo, like just hyped ourselves up about the game.
And then, as much as I want to talk more about Pokemon, I do want to talk about Daft Punk. So how do you feel about that breaking up?
Oh my god. It's so funny because they were like, we haven't done anything for 6 years. Now we're breaking up, and we were just like, it's okay, Kings. They've been in the game for so long, and they're also kind of older guys. I'm not surprised that they decided to say goodbye. But like they went out on a bang. Their last album was absolutely fantastic, so I can't be too sad about it.
So what was that like, cosplaying that? Because that's kind of a really offbeat
Oh my
cosplay. And with all due respect, that is a very offbeat cosplay.
yeah, that was also me and Rinya. So this is the funny thing, right? So we didn't tell anyone that we were cosplaying those characters. So our faces were completely covered, and we were going up to our friends at the con, and they didn't know it was us, and we were asking for photos with them. And we weren't speaking, we were just kind of gesturing because we didn't want to give away our voices. And then at the end of the convention, we took our helmets off, and we were like, surprise, it's us. And they were like, oh my god, we thought that you two were deaf people because you weren't speaking. And I was like, deaf people who were fans of Daft Punk comes together.
So, so,
It
so
was
what,
really
what,
funny.
what was the inspiration for that? Because as I stated, it's obviously off beat, it's off color.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, I don't think somebody automatically says, "Oh, I'm going to go cosplay Daft Punk."
Yeah.
Not the top of the list.
Yeah.
Obviously, maybe with 2021 and the Super Bowl and what the
Mm.
weekend did, and his reference to Daft Punk, might change some of that. But that's kind of a crazy thing. And how was that reacted to? Because obviously Daft Punk is all over the place, and I don't think many people most likely haven't done a Daft Punk cosplay.
Yeah, so you're 100% right. And because people hadn't seen it as often, that's what made it more exciting. It is a little bit different. The inspiration probably just came from they're like that the most recent music that they'd put out. We love the music video that they had for I Feel It Coming with The Weeknd. And we were like, how cool would that be just to do it at a convention, do something different? Yeah,
And so, I mean, I think it's clever. I think that when people do cosplay stuff, that's not cosplay stuff, and isn't anime or comics. I think it expands it. Obviously, I've seen WWE cosplays, and I've seen a lot of other stuff coming out, and
mm,
I think it's very clever if it's done appropriately. And,
100%.
and now I do want to jump to another one that's big, and that's getting a hell of a lot bigger right now. That's your Avatar: The Last Airbender, as you did Toph. And I don't know if you know my
Yes.
story with Toph. I got to interview Jesse Flowers twice. Who plays.
Oh, amazing. Oh,
So
cool.
Jesse was on my first podcast. She was on this show. Obviously, I did Jesse, and then the week before Avatar was on Netflix as the number one show, pretty much in the U.S. watched. And
Mm.
then so that was crazy. That interview, and so what inspired that? Because you obviously have the buns, you got the hair. You're not wearing any shoes, which is very fitting for Toph. Obviously, her clothing is all done. So, what inspired that cosplay? Because obviously, Avatar is getting bigger. Avatar Studios is coming. Nickelodeon has realized that with Avatar: The Last Airbender, the resurgence. Netflix brought it back up. Korra is killing it, and the graphic novels are doing very well. And Pop Funkos are making me a lot of money in the Avatar space. So on that note, I just got my Earth, spiriting Pop Funko. So super cool from Box Lunch. So obviously, what inspired that?
Yeah, once again, nostalgia, dude. Always nostalgia. I love Avatar. I've been watching it since I was a kid. Toph was like my number one girl boss. She's always been one of my favorite characters. And the thing was, my friend owned that costume before me, and she was moving to Europe. And she was going, I bestow you my child. Use her well, enjoy her. And I've worn every time I wear it, I just get like tingles of excitement. That cosplay group was just a whole bunch of different people like, yeah, let's all just do Avatar. And once again, my beautiful and amazing best friend Rinya, she was Aang. So bald cap, full situation. Oh, it's my favorite costume she's ever done. It's so beautiful. And I made her avatar costume. My partner also made sure that all came together really well. I made the shoes. My partner did a lot of work with like the sewing aspects of that one. I didn't make Toph, but I made Aang, so it kind of counts.
So what is that like to design a cosplay for somebody else? Because it is an art in many ways. It's commission, really. That's what it is. And I think you had an idea of who it was going to go to, which probably made it easier while
Yeah,
you're doing
so
it. And if you know the person, you know how they move. Different people walk differently. I know this because I walk very differently than 90% of Americans, and the world walks for a variety of reasons. And so I am full aware, and I also can hear how people walk, which is crazy. Depending on how people walk, some people walk stiffer, some people walk lighter, some people walk heavier. And when you hear it, it's very different when you see it. Um,
yeah.
but what was that like building that out and getting and understanding it, and then also knowing, hey, I'm gonna have an aim to play off of, and then you were also part of an Avatar cosplay group, which also helps tremendously in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, so the biggest plus side to having your best friend cosplay with you is if your best friend is also the exact same height, foot size, and measurements as you. So we just everything that I make for myself will always fit Rinya. So and we're both dancers, so we both move in a really similar way. She's way more flexible than I am. She can do like the splits and back bends. So that costume was made out of a really like soft, stretchy material, which also kind of fits with just the monk vibe and just how Aang is. It's a very soft, warm kind of color tone. I was having a laugh. I was like, "You're just Winnie the Pooh with extra steps."
And even the fact that Avatar is coming back, obviously I mentioned Avatar Studios, the graphic novels are killing it. There's a whole skew of Pop Funkos that are selling out now. Avatar merch is getting bigger than ever. Obviously, what is that like that you have two Avatar cosplays that you can do, and that obviously they are in, I guess, I don't want to say they're in your vault, but they're in your repertoire, they're in your lineup. And
Yeah.
that's sort of cool to some degree because obviously there's going to be a lot more tops, there's going to be a lot more inks, there's going to be a lot more chorus coming. And so, what is that like that, this character is becoming relevant again and did become relevant?
Yeah.
Because
That's
it's
yeah.
nice when that happens.
You're 100% right. You were so correct. The idea of like the vault, I love that. That's so perfect. I'm going to use that now. Um,
Gotta
the
open up the vault. You gotta go all Ruby up
get me
on
into
it.
the archives. So
Get
yeah.
Lionheart. Just take him out.
Yeah, like Aang and Toph will always be classics. Everyone knows who they are. They'll always be loved characters. Having Toph at my
It's not even
disposal.
that. There's a whole generation because of last May, a year ago, when Avatar came out to Netflix. That there's you. I don't know how old you are. I'm 28, so
Yeah,
I
I'm
grew up.
23.
I grew up. I'm 5 years older, but Avatar was somewhat part of your generation, much like it's part of mine. And
Mm,
so there are people that have kids who caught Avatar, and maybe they were 16 catching Avatar, and now they're 32, and they have a 4 year old or a 5 year old. And during COVID in May, they were showing their kids who Toph and Angar. So
yeah.
their kids got to experience not Korra yet, because Korra is meant for a little bit of an older audience, but they got to experience that. And meanwhile, that's why Aang, Katara, Sokka, and Avatar is so classic because it is a whole new version of classic where you have 5 year olds who understand who Toph is and you have 32-year-olds who understand who Toph is. And it's a very,
Mm.
very cool experience in that realm. But continue.
Yeah, no, you are so right. With wearing Toph, you have everyone from the littlest like child who knows who she is, and from like guys who grew up with it when they were kids who were like born. I remember there was like both a dad and a child who were like, Toph is my favorite character. And that's just how amazing Avatar is. It transcends age groups. It's gonna be around forever. And like, even if we don't get another season, which I really hope we do, like, it will always be like this perfect little time capsule. It's timeless, dude. It's timeless.
We're getting a movie.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited.
We're getting a
Hopefully not
movie.
the M. Night Shyamalan one.
And,
Hopefully something
and
different.
I think we're getting an animated movie. I don't think we're getting the Netflix series and live action, but I think we're getting an actual movie out of it, which is very, very cool. I think we're going to get an animated stuff. I think we're going to get some Kyoshi stuff. I don't know if you read the Kyoshi
Yes.
series. I'm on
Mm,
only book one. I know what
mm.
happens in book two. FC Lee, I think, or FCE. I'm working on getting him on this show because that's going to be a fantastic interview. But it's the idea that we're getting more content. Avatar Studios is going to pump out stuff, not live action, from my understanding, but animated stuff. And it's going to be
Yes.
really good because Avatar is a $1 billion franchise. Easy.
100%. Yes.
Conservatively, it's a $1 billion franchise. Um,
Mm.
but a lot of cool stuff's happening with Avatar. There's a reason why those Pop Funkos go for good money. I
100%.
I
I
can
hope
tell
for more
you
Avatar.
that the box lunch thing was $11.90, and it's a $45 pop right now. And it came out like 2 weeks ago, which is
There you
crazy. And
go.
I have three, so I'm happy. I got no
Yay.
complaints.
Kudos.
Easy, conservatively. Again, but enough about Avatar. We could spend another hour talking about Avatar. I do want to talk about another franchise I enjoy, which is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and that's Overwatch.
Overwatch. Yeah.
And I have a connection with Overwatch too, because Keith Silverstein was on my show, on my other show, and he plays Turnbull.
Oh, woohoo.
And he's great, and he's fantastic. And obviously, you did Junkrat.
Yes, my Aussie king.
And so obviously Junkrat and Roadhog are definitely from the Outback. I mean, it's so fitting for you, the Aussie. I can say that. That's not offensive, right?
No, that is not offensive. That is the truth. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
And so what was that entire build like? Because you got a tire in there, you got styling the wig, you got the makeup, you got, you know, the vest, you got the grenades, you got the arm and the leg. Obviously, I like Junkrat. Junkrat, it technically blew off his leg. He's one of the only characters that has a disability in Overwatch, which is awesome. It's actually very inclusive. I appreciate Junkrat. As somebody who has trouble walking, I enjoy Junkrat tremendously. And so what was that entire build like, building Junkrat completely? Because there's a lot of different components going on.
There are. Yes, I love Junkrat. I think out of like all of the characters that I've ever done, Junkrat is my pride and joy. He's my favorite character in the Overwatch series. I think I would say out of, if I do have like a lasting legacy, I think my Junkrat cosplays have been like my favorite ones. For his regular skin, that one is so much work, mostly in the putting it on my body kind of situation. The making it, it's just foam, and then you can always do little things to make it like a bit extra exciting. Like my hot tip is you get metallic spray paint and then you dry brush it over like wear joints, like places where metal would wear away paint, and it just gives it that, it turns foam to metal. It just makes it look so much more real. The glove was all like just garden glove, hot gluing foam to it, and like cutting down pieces. And I used like thumbtacks on the joints to give them that like real metal chunky feeling. Costume I open chest spine, so it's just like tucking things. It's just my skin, cover myself in ashy kind of black oily body paint. I use a brown shellac on my teeth to make my teeth look rotted. It's a whole situation, and putting on that costume takes at least like over an hour to do. So worth it though. I love him.
And then obviously you did a cricket version of it.
Yeah. His
technically the real baseball, but in America we like to think we invented everything.
Yeah, cricket. The cricket skin was from the Olympic event. I way prefer
Summer
wearing
games.
that
Summer
one.
games.
Summer games. That's right.
Soccer time. And then Overwatch. The best thing out of Overwatch.
I 100%
Luvkii Ball
agree.
is the best. I love Luvkii Ball, and I am a mean goalie. And I suck with Lucio. I suck with Lucio.
We should team up. I'm pretty shit at that game. But I really love the people would like hack the game so they could be McCree, and they just like bring a gun into the football arena. It's like, that's cheating. Just
I would love to interview who plays McCree, because McCree is I know who plays McCree. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah, that skin. What the biggest blessing about that skin? I did a photo shoot at my local cricket ground. We have heaps of them dotted around Queensland, where I live. For those unknown about Australia, so I did that.
You're Australian? I couldn't tell.
Whoa. I'm American.
You made this way too easy on that one. Like, that was a gift. I'm so rude too today. Like, continue, please.
Yeah, so I shot that at, like, we call it the golden hour, which is when the sun hits just at the right spot for the natural light. We shot it, and I left one of my pieces behind, and once again my beautiful best friend Rinya drove all the way back to my house, picked up that missing piece, and drove it back while I was doing like head up shots. And when I posted that on Twitter, the voice actor for Junkrat commented on it and said, "That's amazing, dude, well done." And that was just like the best moment of my life. Like, I was just like, that's it, I've done what I need to do for cosplay. I will never get better than this. Like, I was peaking. It was amazing. Oh, and another really fun thing is I actually had a Australian like cricket helmet, and I got my partner's stepdad to get one of his buzz saws, and he buzzed off the top of the helmet and sanded it down so I could spray paint it and use it, because it's like a half helmet where his hair sticks out of the top. That's just a fun little aside. That's just, yeah, that was fun.
And so obviously, I like the summer games. There's certain Overwatch events that I really enjoy. I like the summer games a lot. I just think they're fun. I like Lucille Ball. I also like, Halloween Terror is my
Yes.
second one because I
Mm.
just like those mini games, and I like the archives. Or
Mm.
I think no, 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 it's the like Dark Storm and all that stuff, and or Overstorm or whatever it's called. Like those things were fun. And so obviously, given the fact that they did pay homage to Australia, and you're obviously from Australia, what was that like? Because the other characters play homage to other things, like Soldier 76 plays homage to America, and
Yeah.
other characters like Lucio plays homage to Brazil, and so on and so forth. So, what was that like to have that in Overwatch and have that representation, and then also really getting to do it? Because obviously, I'd imagine it's probably a very different reaction in Australia than that would have in America. Just because I don't think it would be gotten in America with that Junkrat skin the same way.
Yeah, that's so true. Because like my one of my biggest pulls to Junkrat was like the fact that he is an Australian character. I love seeing Australian characters in games. I think the biggest pull, especially, was when they brought out the map for Junkertown, which is just this like orange and green kind of vibe, like this outback aesthetic, which I'm so familiar with because my family grew up in actually a little small town called Texas on the border of Queensland and New South Wales. It's got like 100 people. It's true blue, out in the outback, kangaroos, emus, that whole situation. So seeing it in like this big international game, like my kind of hometown represented, was just amazing. You don't get it very often, but when you do, it just like hits just right.
And then sticking with Overwatch, let's talk about your partner because you and your
Yeah.
partner have done some cosplays, and you did a diva cosplay, and
Hmm.
your partner did, I believe, a McCree. I think.
Yes.
Right. I'm on the money on this one, right?
You are correct. Yeah, my
Oh, thank God,
partner.
thank God, I didn't mess up yet. So, what was that like getting to do those two characters? Because Diva and McCree don't necessarily have a friendship, but they're both part of Overwatch, and they're both part of the same thing. And obviously, doing characters together from the same series at a con is fun, and even building that stuff is cool, and having a good time with that. So, what was that like getting the opportunity to cosplay with your partner? Because
Yes.
everybody has that. There are plenty of couples where somebody doesn't want to cosplay in it and they're happy to watch their girlfriend, boyfriend, partner cosplay, and they just sort of say, "Hey, I'm good."
Well, my gorgeous partner, Death Arising, she did Roadhog with me, which was like that costume is my like one of my favorite costumes that she's ever done. She had a little squeaker toy in the belly, so when you'd poke her belly, it would make a squeak like a plush toy. She is so intelligent. She's very detail orientated. So when she did McCree, she loves cowboy characters, and I was borrowing Rinya's diva costume for that convention. So she was like, "Oh, I'll just throw together a McCree," and she is really resourceful. Like I learn all of my sewing skills and my crafting skills from her. She just has this really good eye of like she sees something in a thrift store and she goes, "Yes, I can turn that into this so easily." She's so good for cosplaying when you're on a budget. She knows how to use her resources.
So what is that like to have another pair of eyes in that?
Yes.
Because it's super helpful, to have somebody say, "Oh, cool, I understand that." Oh, wow, I'm tripping over words here, but what I'm getting at is that having somebody says, "Oh, I know how to make that for this price," or "I see what we can do here," or "Hey, this is just an idea," and they throw out an idea, whether that's
Mm.
your partner or whether that's a friend or whether that's somebody just see something, you're like, "Hey, what do I do with this thing?" And somebody says, "Hey, just go this route," and they do it. Like, what is that like for you? And especially given that it is your partner and they're very close to you, and that like you're in a thrift shop together, and she's like, "Boom, I know exactly what we could do with this."
Yes, I am so blessed because between just you and me and the listeners, my partner is a far better cosplayer than I am. She is so talented. I'm not just gassing her up because I love her. It's the truth. She is a competition winner. She has an amazing YouTube channel. She works really well. She's a fantastic seamstress. So whenever I make something, when I'm sewing something, I always bring it into her, and I'm like, is this right? Does this look okay? She's like, yeah, you can do it. And I'm like, am I doing it right? I know how to do it, but it's just her extra eyes on things. Like I literally couldn't do what I do without her. I love you, my beautiful girlfriend.
So to talk about that even further, because obviously we got to talk about Detroit Becomes Human,
Yes.
and that's a wild game, and there's a lot of fuckery in that game. For lack of
Yes.
it doesn't have as much fuckery as Cyberpunk 2077. But obviously the two of you did Connor and Hank, and there's a lot of photos. There's a lot of fun photos that the two of you have with other people. That entire game, just as an entity, as I stated, is very, very interesting. And I think it was a little bit ahead of its time. I don't think that game really got its fair shake. Just because it's a beat off the path type of game, and what's going on with it, I don't think people were ready for it. But even still, the reception, I think, was very well for both of these. Because the people who know this game know these characters. And so what is that like? Because obviously Connor and Hank have a very interesting relationship.
Yeah, so we love to do those kinds of characters together. I really love Detroit Become Human. It's a game, it's a point and click kind of like mystery adventure. I prefer those games over like FPSs. Just in general, I love storyboard games. We both do. Those characters have a really fun relationship. We love to like just dress up and be silly and be ourselves in them. They're very comfortable costumes to wear. For myself, my partner is a stickler for detail, so she puts on that full beard, puts on every little hair. Her makeup is immaculate when she does it, so much so that when we were at Smash Festival, she went to go to the bathroom, and this woman in the bathroom was like to her, "This is a women's toilet," and then my partner's like, "I am a woman. This is a fake beard. I'm sorry."
So, and I would imagine that, the Diva cosplay, to go back to Overwatch for a second, I think the point's going to be made, and if everybody gives you like 20 seconds here. The Diva cosplay seems very comfortable, and the McCree can be a little less comfortable, I would imagine. Sure. And Hank and Connor seem a lot more comfortable because they seem more street clothes. They seem more like, hey, we're going out to a fancy restaurant type clothing. Versus, you have armor and you're wearing a gun holster, and that, you're McCree who's in the middle of a fight. No offense to McCree, but I don't think McCree's like, oh, I'm just going to go out to a nice dinner tonight and it's going to be my gun home and I can wear my cowboy spurs. I think, your McCree is like, I'm in the middle of a gunfight in the middle of the West. Like,
yes.
I think comfort is not the key there. That's not to say it's not comfortable enough to be in it for a day, but Connor and Hank is probably a lot more comfortable, even with the fake beard and the makeup and all that stuff. It's probably much nicer to sit, and your ass probably doesn't hurt after a few hours in it. So I would imagine.
Yeah, I would. For sure. I think it's just like no matter how painful it gets to wear a costume, you just always stick it out. I like to wear the Diva costume. The biggest problem with that one is that I'm just a little bit too tall for it, so I feel like I'm being like compressed downwards, like it's trying to make my spine be a little bit smaller, so I'm always like walking around like a Barbie doll in that thing like this. Connor's quite comfortable though. It is literally just like a suit and tie and a jacket.
So to even go off of that, because there's been a shift in cosplay, and one of the shifts in cosplay has gone from having uncomfortable costumes that are very accurate where people can't sit down, and there are people at cons who legitimately cannot sit down because their cosplays won't allow them to sit down, and they're on their feet for like 10 hours. And then, there's been a shift where things have gotten maybe a little bit less accurate, but now people can sit down and people are actually valuing more comfort as of late. I think that's been a trend that's happened in the last 2-3 years. And so obviously, how do you feel about that? Because that's what I've noticed at cons. Again, I'm not a cosplayer. I just happen to notice this. I happen to interview a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of cosplayers, and I've noticed that trend where there has been a shift in material. There's been a shift in mentality. There's been a shift in mindset in cosplay where it doesn't have to be, you know, 100% accurate, where you can't sit down and you're uncomfortable about a con, you're standing on your feet for the next 12 hours.
No, like,
Yeah.
you know, in my opinion, like the better, the more comfortable we can be in cosplay, the more accessible it is. There are people who are disabled, have sensory issues. The more as a cosplay community we become to making things softer, better for our bodies, more accessible for everyone else, the better we are. And like that's not to say that people who want to wear an uncomfortable costume and never sit down are doing the wrong thing. They're doing exactly what they want to do. But I think
When I say it, and just to clarify my point,
mm,
I'm saying that I felt there was a stigma in the cosplay community that you had to be 100% accurate like 5 years ago.
oh yeah, yeah.
I feel that there's been that stigma, and I feel that that's been slowly been broken in the last 3-4 years
Yes.
tremendously, and the amount of pressure that's been alleviated, where almost the perfection component has been released, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think that's what's changed, and so
Mm,
I think there's been a stigma that's been broken, and I'm not saying it's completely broken, but I feel people say, "Oh, I now have the freedom to do this." First thing before it was that, "Oh, you're wearing Spanx or some I can't think of something else that you're wearing a bodysuit for instance, or you're wearing
yeah.
I can't think of it. Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And it's comfortable and great. It doesn't look 100% authentic, but everybody knows what you're wearing and everybody knows the character. And now you can actually sit down and now you're comfortable again. And I feel that stigma's been broken in cosplay.
Yes, and isn't that fantastic? It's so good. I mean,
I personally
um,
don't care. It doesn't affect me one way or the other. No.
yeah.
It's this idea that if somebody wants to wear it, it doesn't affect me one way or the other. So I don't
Mm,
care as an individual. I am on a panelist. I enjoy it. I want people to be comfortable when I'm lecturing and when I'm speaking to
yes.
them. I want people not to be uncomfortable. I've seen people look uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, that's not good. But like, if that's what makes people happy, I'm totally cool with it.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. It's it's very interesting actually. My partner went to Dragon Con a few years ago. That's in Atlanta, I believe. Something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I've
Yeah.
issues with somebody from there, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, in Dragon Con, my partner was saying, man, in America, people like you can wear whatever version of a character you want to do. Americans are so chill about, you can do like an inaccurate cosplay and no one really cares. In Australia, there was a little bit of a come on, like if you're gonna do it accurately. But you're so right. There has been like this breaking down of those kinds of stigmas, and lately it's all about accessories. It's all about bringing your own personal flair to cosplay. So yeah, the community has definitely gotten a lot more like accepting, softer, and more exciting about new interpretations of characters.
And
I'd
then
agree with you.
and obviously there's regular interpretations, there's mashups, there's a variety of stuff that's popped up. A lot of gender bending is popping up as well. A lot of gender bending in the sense that you are, girls and guys doing girl and guy characters as their gender and that type of stuff. But then there's also this interpretation where I have a friend, DJ Croft, and he does a male Jill Valentine.
Oh,
He
very
does a
cool.
male Laura Croft. And that guy is phenomenal and doesn't get enough attention for it. It's brilliant what he did with the male version of Jill Valentine. No, it's not Jill Valentine. He's not a guy dressed as Jill Valentine as a girl. He's a guy if Jill Valentine was a guy.
Yeah.
Brilliant cosplay. I'm trying to find him somebody who's going to do if Chris Redfield was a girl. That's who I'm trying to
Yeah.
find for him because the two of them would be perfect. Um,
Mm.
it's my mission, and he's going to thank me, and I'm going to be invited to his wedding. But that's not the point. Yeah, and then he's in Atlanta of all places. That's why I bring him up. He'll be happy that I mentioned him in this. It's in my contract. His contract too. So
Very
anyway,
cool.
let's talk about Disney. Cause
Disney, yay.
so you did Ariel. I think
Yes, Ariel.
your girlfriend
Hmm.
did the dress for that, and your girlfriend was Eric. So I don't know how
Yes.
that works. My girlfriend became American and all that stuff. Again, it's too easy. This joke is just too easy. But in all seriousness, your girlfriend cosplayed as Eric, and there's some awesome, cute photos on the beach with the two of you. So
Yes.
what was that like? And then to tack that on, you also did Miguel and Tulio.
Tulio, yes.
And
Yeah.
one of them does something inappropriate in that movie, but that's not the point here.
Yeah.
So many people miss it too, and that's why I bring it up because it's great that scene and what happens, and
Yeah.
that character who does it. What is it, Shell? She's very inappropriate, and I don't know how they snuck that into a Disney movie. But that's not the point here. It just goes to show, there's a lot of fun stuff in Disney movies.
Yes, so true.
That's the line.
Yeah. So like Ariel, that's just like another pro to my partner being so detail orientated. So I don't know if you could see it on the photos, but the bodice has actual real shells with little holes in them because my partner would go for walks on the beach and would find all these little shells and be like, okay, this can go on the dress. Like that costume was just shrunken down to fit me so I can get another use out of it, get another lifetime into a costume. Like if it no longer is your style or you don't want to do it, make it so your friends can wear it. So it got to have a second life. It didn't go to waste. So we wore that one, and I wore it to my friend's Disney themed wedding where all of the bridesmaids were Disney princesses.
That's funny. What was that?
So I got to be Ariel. That was amazing. So we all did like a little song, and everyone was a Disney princess, and she had Mickey officiating the wedding. It was the best wedding of all time. So it was so good. Yeah, and Miguel and Tulio were really fun too. I would say those costumes were pretty uncomfortable. Again, like open chest binding, and I had like little scraggly Tulio beard hairs on my chin. Super like had my full stomach and my back out, and I remember at the convention one of the staff were like, oh, I think this is going to be too inappropriate to wear on the con floor, and I was like, come on, like I'm covered up, it's fine. And it all worked out because we knew some of the event organizers, and they're like, oh no, we know these guys, they're cool. So thank God for that. Those costumes are so fun to wear. We really want to do the regular versions of like the t-shirts, like the green and the, was it green? No, blue and red, I think it is.
It's blue and red. It's
blue and red, that's right. Yeah, we want to do those ones next.
It's symbolic for something, and I don't know what it is.
There you go.
For and usually red and blue sort of contradict each other.
That's a good point. Yeah, so we really want to do those ones as well. Go to a beach. I even have like the little instrument that Miguel has, and I just haven't had a chance to cosplay it yet. So keep your eyes peeled.
And then to talk about another one, and this one's interesting to me, is Kakashi and Tsunade. Voice actress for Tsunade was on my show.
Oh,
also,
cool.
And the English one, and obviously this is unique because I think you were Kakashi, right? And that's kind of a unique switch up for the two of you, and then I say this with complete respect and a little nervous. You tend to be the more feminine character.
Yes, I'm usually the more femme one. It is true. It is very true.
So what was that like, getting to sort of switch it up a little bit and getting to play that out? Because it's kind of fun to do that. Yeah,
it was really fun. My girlfriend's first anime crush was Kakashi. So I was like, well, I have never seen Naruto. No cap, never seen Naruto. So I was like, I'll just do this guy because I know you like him so much. And it was basically just a little gift, like, here I am dressed as Kakashi for you.
Which is ironic because I mean Kakashi is super, super interesting. Yeah. I love Kakashi in so many ways.
I'm glad you do, and so many people do, and I'm just there like, I have no idea who this is. I'm just doing this because my partner loves it.
He enjoys long distance relationships and reading Naruto's entire story while training him.
Oh, that's really cute.
If you haven't seen Naruto, I just ruined a lot of things for you.
I'll have to watch it. I have it on my list. I'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, you figure it out in the Pain Arc saga, what's going on, and then you look back, and then I'm rewatching Naruto right now. You're like, oh, now I get it. Like, especially when he's reading certain things. So it's like, oh, this is hilarious. This is such an inside joke, and it's also very morbid if you think about it.
Yeah. How fun, yeah.
And then I just bought a Kakashi Pop Funko yesterday too, which makes it even worse. So
Very
clearly,
cool. He's a
from,
very great character. He's very sexy, very classic anime man. So I'm like, yep, perfect. Put me in him.
and I do have a Tsunade Pop Funko. So I'm hoping to get that signed by the voice actress who was on my
Oh,
show. The fifth
oh,
Hokage
very
was on
cool.
my show, so everybody can deal with that.
How cool.
but and then obviously we got to talk about Elon Musk got me Wario and Waluigi. Hey, that dog coin, guys. Remember, it's just a hustle. This is when this show gets flagged by the FEC. This is the portion of the show that gets flagged by the FEC.
Yeah.
So obviously everybody got the joke. That's SNL, and what happened with
Yes.
that? Luigi
Yeah.
kills Mario. He has 3 lives left, though. He has 3 lives left. And Andrew Cuomo came out too, and for the Italian Anti-Defamation League.
Mm.
Which is just absolutely sick what they did with that. But I'm going to get too much in trouble here. So where did this idea come from? Because obviously the two of you did Wario and Waluigi, and then you also had a Wario Kart and Double Dash, and which is one of the only games that on the GameCube that is worth more today than any other game. It's that Smash. And I forget the third game for the GameCube that's worth more than it is. Like, I think a sealed copy of Double Dash is worth like $300.
Yeah. Very interesting. I had no
A
idea.
used copy is worth like 90. And
There
no,
you
I am
go.
not selling my copy of Double Dash, so don't ask. And please stop asking everybody. It's mine. I bought it for $12. I fought hard for that, I guess, game. And no, it is not yours. It is mine.
It's not going anywhere.
It is a fantastic game, and you also had a blue Koopa shell,
Yes, I did.
which means
So
you weren't
that
in first place
we were
or
last
second or third.
place. So those cosplays, I love Waluigi. Like, dude, when I got Mario Kart on my Nintendo, like my old DS, I broke the buttons pressing them so hard playing Mario Kart. So always loved playing Waluigi. I think he has like the best stats. Don't come for me. I love his like he's so funny. And Wario just like suits it because we were kind of like they're just the Nintendo version of Junkrat and Roadhog, aren't they? So they were just a great fit for us. And my incredible, amazing partner made the overalls. And I dabbled in latex prosthetics for the first time. So my chin and my nose, my mustache were made by me. The nose I did buy, but then I sculpted it down to actually fit my face because it was made for a man's face. So it was way too big. Yeah, it was a really good experience. It makes me more confident to do more liquid latex stuff in the future. I actually wore Waluigi at my live last night. I wore it on stage for everyone. It was very funny. I do a Japanese pop group. We perform once a month to a live audience. And we were doing a cosplay live to do something different. And everyone wore like cutesy, like girly outfits. And I was just there like, and I'm Waluigi.
So let's talk about that in a second. But what was
Yeah.
it like to build that car?
The car, yeah. So we bought that secondhand. It was a kid's car, like kids go kart. We bought it secondhand from this couple on the Gold Coast and spray painted it. We added LED lights underneath it, made like this cardboard front, and I can like sit in it. But because I'm an adult and this is a child's car, it's not strong enough to like go with the pedals because I'm too heavy. So they have to like my partner would get behind me and just like push me along. I'd be like, yeah, with my like blue shell. It was so funny.
The motor.
Need a better motor.
Put some supercharge on that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I play with Legos, so I know how to do all this.
Oh, cool. Come and fix up my car, pimp my ride. It was really fun. I still have it downstairs and out. We live in a tiny apartment now, and our garage space is like my car, and then cosplay stuff packed all the way through, and we have our cart sitting down there, ready for the next convention, whenever that may be.
And then to even go further. So obviously you do live stuff, and we're going to talk about the idol stuff in a second here. And I
Mm.
think it's going to lead into it. But what is that like to do stuff live? Because again, in America, things are starting to open up again.
Mm.
Cons are starting to return back. Um,
Yeah.
and we're probably going to tackle this more and more at the end. But I think it's a good tease. So what is that like to do things live outside? I mean, I went out to dinner tonight and I wore a mask out, and I'm fully vaxxed. But obviously, masks are going to sort of ease up probably in the middle of June in America in a lot of places. But what is Australia like in that front?
Yeah. Well done for wearing a mask and thank you for getting vaccinated. Well done. Gold
I was
star. I love
begrudgingly
to hear it.
vaccinated.
Hmm?
I was begrudgingly vaccinated.
I also hate getting shots. I'm an absolute baby when it comes to needles. But I haven't we in Australia we kind of have a slow rollout, so I'm the lowest on the priority list, so I got to wait a couple more months. Um the sorry, what was the question? Got sidetracked.
So what has it been like in Australia with things
Oh,
opening
with
up?
COVID, yeah.
It's because you were doing something live with Waluigi, and you do something live every month. And obviously, when did that come back? What is that exactly? And how has that been affected? Because I am curious. And obviously, we're going to talk about that idol stuff in a second. It kind of leads into it.
Yeah, so Australia, we live in a very lucky country. We have very low contraction rates. We had our first convention over from on for Gold Coast Supernova a couple of months ago. Lots of social distancing, so we stopped meeting in person and having shows for maybe 6 months, and then we were allowed to have like 20 people in a venue if they were spaced out and were all wearing masks. And then kind of recently, there's been no cap on people, and you can come and wear a mask and sanitize. And there's like, I don't know if you have this in the States, but it's like a check-in. So when you go somewhere, there's like a QR code and you say, I was here. So if there is a case, they can contact you and say,
Yeah.
there was someone else, and you go into lockdown.
No, we have something called the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and you need a warrant for that in America.
Ah, interesting.
It's called the Constitution. I'm a political science major. I'm also a big, like civil rights guy. And there's all this HIPAA law stuff, meaning like there's no database for privacy. And constitutionally, it's super illegal. I mean, it is super illegal, and if you want like legitly people destroying the federal government, people will riot in America over this.
Interesting. That's just
On
like
both,
a different
on both sides. It's not a Republican Democrat thing in the United States. It is a fundamental right in the United States.
Yeah, each to their own, each to their own opinion. It's definitely been a big lifesaver in Australia. That's why we have 0 cases and no deaths. Like that's just part of it. But that kind of stuff aside, that's all
we're number one in America. So
you guys are doing the best that you can. Good job. But so we've
what a morbid conversation. It's so terrible.
It's gone downhill.
I stopped caring at 3:00 today, and this is the new attitude for this entire podcast. Is that I just stopped caring, and it's wonderful because I'm doing amazing interview work now, and I'm just legitimately saying whatever I want to say.
Yeah, go for it, dude. 100%. So our shows have come back into full swing, so we're allowed to have as many people as we want. We don't have to wear masks anymore. That's fantastic. Everyone is also super respectful about personal space. So our environments were already a really good space to be in, and we really trust our guests to do the right thing. So we're sitting in a pretty good position. I'm very blessed to be in Amy's.
And I'm sure we're going to touch base on this, but I am curious, what is this live stuff? Because obviously you're doing a live show. You do it idol stuff, and we're going to talk about Hatsune Miku, and I love Hatsune Miku.
Yes.
I was supposed to go to a Hatsune Miku concert, and then they were touring in the U.S.
That's so exciting.
And COVID hit.
Yeah.
And it was very upsetting because that's a whole discussion. I promise to talk about it. But what is this like? Because obviously you're part of an idol group, and you're doing Japanese stuff, and you're performing live. And so what was that like, and how'd you get involved in that? And I actually come out as Waluigi, and that's kind of funny in a lot of ways, because who in their right mind would come out as Waluigi and think that's not funny?
Exactly. I got into that group We started off as a cosplay group for Love Live. There's a huge idol culture in America too, which is amazing. And then we transitioned to being just ourselves. So we perform our own music and we perform covers of original music from Japan. Our style is very like cutesy and soft, and we have so much fun doing it. I got into it through once again my best friend Rinya. She was in that group originally, and they're like, "We need someone to fill the space. Can you come in for one show?" And I was like, "Yeah, have a bit of dancing and singing background. I can definitely do it." And I've just stayed on ever since.
And obviously, Vocaloid is fascinating. Love Idol is big. I can't get into like idol anime. I tried. I really did try.
It's not for everyone.
It's hard. Yeah,
Mm.
you know, it's. I get it. I understand it. Some of it is amazing. I
Mm.
do like Cheryl Gnomes. I like Macross. Mime from Robotech. All that stuff is obviously idol based.
Yes.
Gundam Narrative was a Robotech movie. It was not a Gundam movie. I could tell you that. It had it very much. And then Robotech has always been musically oriented and has always had that idol vibe. So I respect the genre. I just can't get into it. But I do like Hatsumiku. I enjoy Hatsumiku. And so obviously you've done Hatsumiku, you've done Rink and Blank, or you did one of them, I think. I think I'm not too sure who you've done.
Yes.
At this point, I don't know the whole Hatsumiku crew. Okay, I know Wiggle and I know some stuff that she's done, and I've also know a lot of like other songs that like she's animated to, and
Yeah.
she's in pretty much a skimpy thong with no clothes on, and it's fantastic. And
Yeah.
whenever I feel depressed, that's what I watch. It's that and LFC. That's a different discussion completely. But what is this like? Because I know you've been part of groups, and I know that all that stuff. So you've done Bunny Miku as well. You've done
Yes.
traditional Miku. So obviously you've done all of Hatsumiku. So
Yes.
what was that like in some capacity?
Yeah, I love Vocaloid. Vocaloid, once again, like I feel like everything, all my answers are like nostalgia because I watched a lot of Hatsune Miku when I was in middle school. Like when I was feeling sad, especially, like she just has this like amazing fun vibe. Um, I love to like also dance and sing, and there's lots of really good music that Vocaloid producers put out there. It's also catchy. It's so great. I think the biggest setback is always just the wig. I hate wearing long wigs, dude. They go all the way down to the floor. They get ratty. Miku, cut your hair, please.
And one of the things about Hatsumiku that's fascinating, I think it was either this Thanksgiving Day parade or the one before. She was referenced by one of the singers.
Get out of town! No way.
So it wasn't official, but one of the singers had basically Hatsumiku pigtails.
Oh, cute.
Green hair that looks like Hatsumiku, and those like bun pigtails. That's a reference to Hatsumiku.
That's so cool. I heard that Miku was playing at Coachella in the States or something, and I just
I have
that's
no
so
idea.
funny.
All I know is that Hatsumiku had like a virtual concert Kickstarter, but the entire thing was in Japanese. And I'm saying to myself, like, you do realize that I get that Kickstarter is an entire international platform, but America is the real driver. And I would have backed it if it was in English.
Mm.
And
I saw.
I didn't back it because I'm like, I can't read this. I back projects from Canada. I back projects from Mexico on Kickstarter. And I'm like, I can't read this in Japanese. And it's in yen. And like, you made it difficult. But I do know that Capcom has had Hatsumiku t-shirts, I think, at one point. And those things are awesome. Those things look cool. Good. Redbubble has Hatsumiku t-shirts. Those things look cool. And then I was supposed to go to a Hatsumiku concert, and it's super fascinating what they've done with Hatsumiku.
Amazing tech, isn't it? I saw my favorite tweet ever was Post Malone at at a Miku concert, which is just the funniest thing to me. But yeah, Miku, the whole like virtual idol and having her perform live, it's so cool. It reminds me of the Gorillaz a lot.
It's almost as good as Boy George performing with Boy George.
True.
No. If you haven't seen it, and everybody who hasn't seen this, so Boy George from like 1970s Culture Club
Mm.
performing with current Boy George.
That's really cool. Whoa.
Wicked.
Very cool.
Awesome. So you have basically Boy George, like 40 years later, performing with Boy George. You have Tupac and that technology performing. It is wild.
It
You
is
know,
so cool.
Fast and Furious is probably going to be bringing back, Paul Walker. There's discussions about that with virtual technology. And there's some crazy stuff. Star Wars did something with it. And that stuff, I mean, it's a whole interesting ball game. And Hatsumiku, just as an entity, is super fascinating with what they've done. And
Yeah,
I
isn't
was
it?
supposed to go. I was supposed to go to a concert, and my issue with it is that COVID hits, they reschedule, and then COVID's still a nightmare, and then they don't let me know until like 2 days, before the concert that it's not happening, and then they still don't let me know even before. They let me know like legitimately like a day before that it
Oh
was canceled.
no.
Now it
My
was
goodness.
like in DC and by Katsu kind of all places,
Mm.
in like that same hotel region, just about like 20 miles outside of DC. And so my issue with that was that it's like it's canceled everywhere else, and you aren't going to let me know as a customer. It was just poor planning, and
Oh,
so
that's really rough.
and it was expensive tickets. I mean, we're talking like $200 tickets. So it was upsetting.
Oh no. I hope you get a chance to see her. Yeah, to tell me what it's like. One day Miku will come to Australia and I will just have the best time
It
of my
was
life.
supposed to be a U.S. tour,
Man.
and they come to the U.S. like once every 3 years.
Mm.
And I think they go to Foxwoods, they go up to Boston, and they go all over. It was almost like, but I did get to see Sailor Moon live. That was cool. That was cool.
Oh,
That was a
wow.
12-day U.S. tour. Those tickets were like $300 for me and my mom. And I'm a heterosexual white straight male going to a Sailor Moon like concert. It was amazing, amazing. If I wasn't with my mom, something else would have happened. And I'm going to leave it at that, and then let everyone use their imagination. But that was amazing. That was
Oh,
cool.
that's cool. That's cool, dude. That's so fun. Did your mom love it?
Yeah, she was interested in it, and it was great. It was awesome. I mean, you talk about like nostalgia. So
Yeah.
a lot of cool stuff with Hatsumiku and all that stuff. So obviously, and then what is this like being part of a group? Because obviously you're doing Love Idol and Hatsumiku stuff, and even like embracing that culture. Because I don't know what that culture
Mm.
looks like in Australia. Because I
Oh,
don't
the
even know what it
culture.
looks like in the U.S. either. I
So
don't
it's
hang out with those people. Those people don't want to hang out with me. I hang
the
out with
idol
Batman
culture is
people.
amazing. We have a beautiful community in Australia, and you guys have an amazing one in the States. I would totally recommend you check out Peachy Parade in the States. Beautiful, talented girls. It's a really great place to like share and grow and learn a skill. Dancing and singing is just something that I think everyone can do. Everyone can express themselves that way. It's amazing. It's so fun.
I tried. I am not a dancer. I am not good at singing. I can listen. I can talk. I do not sing well. I was in a play for 2 years as an extracurricular in college. It was
Yeah.
fun. I enjoyed it, but it is not for me. And I just do not think that I am going to go and have a career change at this stage in my life.
I don't know. We all have a little bit of music in our souls. I feel like if you put yourself out there, then you could be a Japanese school idol.
Yeah. I could also become president of Australia at the same time.
I'd love to see it.
After I conquer the earth, I'll appoint myself as the prime minister of Australia. How does that
Prime
sound?
Minister, exactly. Yes. That
And
sounds
I
good.
also do double duty in Canada.
Yes. Yeah. And be an idol and run idol shows.
That's the plan right
2022
there.
New Year's resolution.
Yeah,
But yeah.
you just established it. So maybe my Instagram will go up after that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll manifest it. It'll happen.
I'll just gain like 3 new followers on Instagram just like that. So it's so terrible. It's so terrible.
Yeah, I would if you can check out idol stuff, it's great. It's definitely a growing community. Everyone's kind of finding their footing, but like it's a great way to make new friends, do a new hobby. It's just like cosplay, and it's also for me been a great way to be fit, to stay fit, to do dancing, to learn a new skill, become coordinated. So
This,
it's
this,
actually
is, this is my problem with it though, is that how many men are actually into it? It seems like such a female dominated segment that would be into it. Like I'm in the space of comic book investing. That's a male dominated space, right? By definition. That doesn't
mm,
mean I would love women to become comic book investors. Like, and there are some, and some are killing it. But like, it definitely seems more male oriented. It's not a male intrinsic trait, but I feel like idols are a female thing because unfortunately, if I'm like, I love school idols, and then I'm a guy, it automatically goes to one thing. And then I know
uh,
exactly where it goes to.
Well, idol culture definitely has a strong female orientated presence, which is amazing. Women in the music industry, we love to see it. There's definitely a audience for male idols. There are male idol groups. There are also performers who non-binary, all the different genders in between. It's expanding and it's getting there. And I would say our audience is probably 50-50 male, female, non-binary people.
I'm just
It's a pretty
saying.
even spread for
I'm
us.
just saying, and maybe I'm ignorant, and I'll take the ignorance here. It just seems like there's going to be judgment
Yeah,
for males in this space. It just seems that way.
yeah,
And especially in the States, and also right now, there's just a lot of pressure in this
yeah.
space with men with certain things in the United States. And so,
Interesting.
I feel, and there's a whole cultural thing going on where like men are very much on defensive positions right now for a lot of reasons.
Hmm.
So it's like there's reasons why I avoid the idol space because it's just like it's almost inviting a problem into my life, I feel.
That's really interesting. You know, I can't really speak on men's issues, but I'm really glad that you brought this up. It's a really interesting topic. Um, I think if you come
And
into us, yeah,
yeah, I mean, the way I feel is that not could be wrong completely, but it very much seems because it definitely touches on a younger position. There's the issue of age, and in the United States right now, it's just like it's inviting a problem. And given that I have this going on, and given that I have other stuff going on, and I run an eBay business, and I have a job, and I'm like investing in the stock market, I'm investing in comic books, like to me, it just seems like it's inviting a problem in when things are going right. And so it's just like, cool, I'll just avoid the problem completely. And that's how it feels in many ways on this topic. And I don't think it's the same in the rest of the world. I don't think
yeah.
Americans are mature enough to handle this because I think Americans have, a history of certain behaviors have resulted in certain circumstances. And in America, we learn from our behaviors very quickly.
Interesting. That is interesting. I can't really offer a comment
Well, I don't
about the
expect
American scene, but I think if I can take it to like the Australian scene, I think the whole perspective is if you come into a space and you're there because you love the music and you want to support someone and you want to see them grow and do their best, then that's if you know that
I
what you're there
think
for is
I think in
for the
Australia
music.
it's different because I think those stigmas aren't there in Australia. I think a
Hmm.
stigma is very much and look, American and anime, you know, part of how anime is breaking in America is Goku's in the Thanksgiving Day parade. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
you want to talk about a major stigma break? That took 25 years to get
Mm.
to that position. That means that Dragon Ball Z is a cultural phenomenon and part of America, much like Superman is. It
Yeah.
took a long time to break that, and so I think that the anime break in America is now coming, and it's slowly the dam is breaking, and Voltron and Netflix and a variety of other things has helped. I just think this idol stuff is going to be the last thing in America that gets taken care of because it's sort of at the bottom of the barrel. My Hero Academia is going to come first.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And like, but this is the thing with engaging with anything that mainstream audiences think is cringe or weird. Like, you're not gonna enjoy yourself if you only do things to please other people. So I'm kind of like, even if people think that my hobbies are weird and strange, as long as I'm not hurting anyone and I know that I'm having a good time, you know, you're never gonna have fun if you try to live to other people's expectations.
Oh, I go to things that
Yeah.
people think are crazy. I go to wrestling and I do indie wrestling. People are like, oh, what's this? So I agree. It's just the idea that certain things will be more stigmatized than others, and then people
Yeah.
connect it. But this is a whole different conversation beyond cosplay. This is called adult conversation 101. This is how these interviews go because we get into things. So anyway, though,
Mm,
obviously, I do want to touch upon getting back to cosplay in Australia. Obviously,
yeah.
you just came, I think, 3, 4 weeks ago. You did Hatsune Miku at a con.
Yes. Yes, I did.
And so, what was that like being at a con and cons opening up? And obviously, Australia's a smaller country than the United States, as far as people,
Oh,
right?
as far as people, yes. Yeah. Correct.
And also, you probably have more space than us to some degree, right?
Yes. Correct. It's
If you guys conquered New Zealand, that is.
yeah. Yeah. Our
Are
it's
you guys
very
gonna invade New Zealand anytime soon?
pardon.
You're gonna go invade New Zealand?
Well, we always say kind of like how in the States, like Canada is like America's like cousin. New
Oh, no,
Zealand
no,
is
no.
kind of
We
like
own
Australia's
Canada.
cousin.
We're allowing them to pretend that they're their own country because we kicked Britain's ass a few times and they still worship the Queen. We're just pretending. Really, 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 what we want to do is we want to basically say, hey, Greenland, we'll give Greenland. Everybody in Greenland can move to Canada, and then we'll just pick Greenland and we'll make it part of the US. That's really the trade we want to do.
You
And
call it red,
we
white,
were
and
pretty
blue
close. We
then.
were pretty close with Trump doing that trade. Pretty close to it.
Interesting.
Now,
Yeah. I
you
don't
have to
know.
understand. You have to understand. It's a long-term play. Much like Seward in Alaska, it would have paid off in 50 years. It would have been
Yeah.
called Greenland's Folly. We had a plan, and 2020 did not go the way it was supposed to go, and then obviously that Greenland deal fell apart. It's unfortunate. It's a bad deal for us. All we had to do was pollute the earth, heat up Greenland, get all those minerals. Oh, it would have been great.
Oh, I do not.
I'm sorry. I'm economically smart because heating up the earth to melt all the snow is the cheapest way how to get all those minerals out.
Oh my goodness.
It's
Where is
such a
this
bad
conversation
joke
going?
too.
Oh my
Just
God,
because
you're
I'm
gonna.
practical does not mean I should be ostracized here.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know about that to Auntie Irma, but in terms of
For those
uh
who don't know, that's called comedy, and I'm being facetious and funny for a reason. So before anybody takes me at face value, I do want to make it clear. But in all seriousness, getting back on track here, what is it like to have cons back open and be in a con in that environment?
it's so fun. I had a really good time. Supernova did a really good job of making the cons really spacious. There actually wasn't a huge turnout to Gold Coast Supernova. I think people were usually people from other states because we're kind of in smaller cities. Usually people from Melbourne and Sydney will come to Queensland and it really fills up the convention. But because people were like, oh, don't really want to travel if the convention's just going to get cancelled. So,
So to even talk about that, because I'm curious, because
mm,
obviously I take economic approaches to things, and
yeah.
I know that people are economically hurting in the United States. People don't have money. People have
Mm,
money. People
mm,
really don't necessarily want to go out. People don't want to be around 20,000 people breathing down your neck per se.
yeah.
And also, a lot of people that I speak to in the indie realm are saying, well, I go to cons and I'm making a little bit of money, but I'm making like $400 in profit. And
Mm.
I'm working 2.5 days and driving, I'm staying in a hotel. And while I'm making a little bit of money, I'm not making a lot of money prepping up for a con. It's a pain in the ass. And I understand for a cosplayer, you just have to bring 2, 3, 4 cosplays and stay in your hotel. It's not the same as a vendor, but obviously they're pillars there's like 4 or 5 pillars to a con. There's the celebrities, there's the vendors, there's the panelists, then there's, the staff. And so what was that like in the showroom and even panels and even just things to do at the con? Because obviously if certain things aren't showing up where there's 50% less vendors, there's 50% less shopping. And then there's
Yeah.
less options. And then if there's 50% less celebrities, again, there's less options. And then if there's less panels, at a certain point you don't want to spend money anymore. You want to hear somebody
Yeah.
speak or you want to break it up.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Because all those things make it, and then people want to sit and see a cosplayer, but if all of a sudden all that stuff is lessened, it changes the experience. And I
Mm.
like small cons, don't get me wrong, but if I go to a small con and its rank is 1,000, only 500 people show up, it's a problem in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's really interesting. No, that's a really good perspective. I think that's the reason this convention was quite small is because our cons rely on people from out of state some of the time to really fill it up. And people from Melbourne and Sydney were like, the risk of flying all the way down there with all of my merch and booking a hotel for the convention to maybe be cancelled at any point was kind of like, it was just weighing up your pros and cons. So pros and cons. So it felt
So, like, what was that like, and what was the scene like? Because I hear like four or five different sides in the U.S. from people that I speak to. Some people have gone to cons. Some people say, "Hey, things are going on." Some people say, "Hey, I'm wearing my mask and I'm behaving." But it's very, very weird. And this is why I'm holding off to go to cons right now,
yeah.
where I'm just like, "Hey, let me let the dust settle," because there's like a con like 30 miles away where I'm living, and it's happening in like 5 weeks, and I could get a ticket to it, and I could go as a fan, but obviously money's a bit tighter right now for me, so that's a big issue starting. And then secondly, I'm like, how is this gonna play out exactly?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much the same here. It's from a cosplayer's perspective in the convention hall, there are less cosplayers, there are less vendors, and there aren't as many activities. But on the plus side, you're in a spacious convention, you're still there with your friends, you're on the Gold Coast, which is near the beach, so you got more hotel options. So there are definitely benefits and also negatives about the
So,
situation.
and I don't know if I'm gonna throw something out, and I'm curious your opinion on it.
Yeah.
And you might not know because it might be a U.S. problem, but a lot of what's happening is that cons, let's say you're a small time creator, you go to one of these cons and you don't break even, and the con doesn't break even, that becomes a big issue because the con might not be able to survive. And so I don't know how that is in Australia because you guys have a lot less cons in the U.S., but there are cons that need 900 people to show up at a 1,000-person con. And if 500 people show up, still good. It's exciting, but they're not breaking even, and they're not able. Everybody gets paid, but then they say, "Hey, you know what it is? We're not coming back next year." And so
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even like with this con, if that's a possibility, or even smaller cons might not come back, or offshoots might not come back. And so I'm curious how you feel about that because that's my concern is that
Yeah.
certain cons won't be able to make bank, and especially when you have mega cons. In the U.S. we have mega cons, and well, if you normally expect 40,000 people to show up, and only 20,000 people show up, that's an amazing turnout in a lot of ways. But guess what? You need 35,000 people to show up to break even, and
Mm.
it's just unfortunate where that might not happen, and especially if you're guaranteeing celebrity positions. And also the other thing that happens too is that those vendors show up and then not enough money's being made on their end, and then you're
Yes.
like, well, okay, I'm not coming back to this convention again because I didn't make my bank go
Mm.
on it. So I'm curious how you view that and you see it, if it even crossed, because I know that a lot of people don't know the inner workings. I have an article on my website that explains a lot of stuff on this and
Yeah.
explains more of the celebrity and what your ticket guarantees. But even still, it's a very weird thing because that affects cosplayers because all of a sudden, if there's less vendors, there's less draws, celebrities don't make their money. Now, a con has a whole thing, and then, well, you don't have a place to cosplay.
Yeah, very interesting. In Australia, and I'm not an event organizer, but from my perspective, we have the four major cons, which is Supernova, Oz Comic Con, Madfest, and Smash. And all of those four conventions are backed by larger companies. Supernova has been around for decades and decades. They are really well established. Madfest goes through Madman Anime, which is a distributor of like DVDs
I
and
know,
things
man.
like that.
Yeah, I
So
know.
they're a big company. So we don't really have the same presence of smaller cons that can really be made or can be broken by a low attendance.
But
We do
even
the
those
small
big
cons that we do.
ones, even those
Yeah.
big ones, I mean, they're not operating on major profit margins.
Interesting. So
It's very interesting because I mean, there's Awesome Con, and there's stuff that I would imagine, and we're going to find out. They're running in August how they're going to do, and in 2019, I want to say that concert they were going to cater to 80,000 people. They were not 80,000 people. It was a much lower attendance. And Left Field Media is an interesting company, but I don't know what's going to happen with them because my last Awesome Con was tame compared to my first year.
yeah.
And obviously, I think they were competing with Anime Boston, which is a
Mm,
big anime con that caters to about 25,000 people, which is very large for an anime con.
mm.
And even still, though, it was this crazy circumstance where I'm like, wait a second, like this is tame. Like I felt very tamed out at my last Awesome Con in DC. And I'm like, well, now you guys are coming back, and I get people are starving for content. But also, it's this idea that in the US, everything is going to be happening. There's going to be like 9 cons happening every single weekend.
Oh
And
my God.
while they're all not in the same city, where if you have a con in DC, but then you have a con in, Kentucky, I mean, I hate to say this, but, you're a comic writer, you have to make decisions. You have AtlantaCon happening, and then you have AwesomeCon happening in the same weekend, and you live in DC, it might be more advantageous to go to AtlantaCon or DragonCon. Or if you live in Florida, it might be more advantageous for you to come to DC than to go to Dragon Con. And so
Mm.
it's very interesting. And that's why I'm curious because from a cosplay's perspective, obviously I view this from a panelist perspective, and I'm just curious what cosplayers think of this because you guys probably want to be seen too. You want photographers around, I would imagine. And well, if you're a photographer and you're trying to do that stuff, obviously that's going to affect you too when there's all these cons opening up. And now with
Yeah.
5 options you can go to, where do you go to? I mean,
Mm.
and I know in Australia you might not have that problem, but it's a cosplay problem in many ways. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that because I don't know from a cosplay perspective.
Yeah, I guess from a cosplay perspective, I'd say it's just about picking and choosing the right places to be at the right time. Picking conventions that you feel like kind of judging what the scenario is right now, currently in Queensland, low cases to none, government lowering things coming back to normal. Yeah, it's safe for me to go to Gold Nova because we have big football games back on again, big rugby matches and cricket. Like I can go to a convention, I feel safe doing that. But if things were to amp up again, if there was a problem, I'd say, oh, I won't go to this one. It's just about picking what is right for you at the time.
Yeah, and even going further, because obviously I think COVID has done a lot of positive stuff.
Mm.
Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I did 90 interviews last year with a bunch of cosplayers, a bunch of indie comic creators all over the world, and I think COVID has expanded the world in many
It
ways.
has. It's so true. Yes.
And so I'm curious what the future of cosplay looks like because there's been a lot of digital stuff in cosplay. There's been a lot of people doing, smaller, I don't want to say closet cosplays. I don't know what the word is actually, but almost like at home cosplays where you build a costume. It's not necessarily, convention ready at the moment. It can be, but you're building, stuff and you're showing your progress and then you have a bunch of photos of it and then that's now being shared on Instagram and it's almost like an Instagram cosplay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then people are,
Cosplay. Yeah, because there's more social media activity now more than ever. We're all connecting online, and I think that has really expanded the cosplay community. I've seen so many new young faces getting into cosplay. It's great. I feel like we can only go up from here.
And so, what is that like? And do you even think that? Because I don't think that's ever going to leave now. I think this
Yeah.
virtual, people talking business about the great digitalization pivot. Obviously, I've made that decision, a while ago because I produced a digital podcast for the last 7 years. And I've been a
Mm.
part of it, and I've been more in depth. I'm doing 4 to 6 interviews a week across the
Oh, busy.
I'm very busy. I run an entire eBay business that's more or less digitalized with physicalized products.
Mm.
I'm working on a class that's completely digital at the moment. And so obviously I'm part of that. And I think that this isn't going anywhere. And where do you think that's going
Yeah.
with cosplay? Because and it's not just cosplay, but even in pop culture, we could expand it to that.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's definitely it's got its place and it's not going anywhere and it's only going to get better and it makes our lives so much easier and it's so great to be able to connect with international people. Like this is possible right now because of the way COVID has gone. So we'll be seeing more cosplayers and also it's more accessible. It's just great. I love it.
And do you feel that you now have more of a presence outside of Australia because of this? Because and I don't know if you know that, but obviously I have a bigger presence outside the U.S. I actively
Mm,
sought it out. I've gone into the UK. I was forced to in many ways
mm.
because I unfortunately what's happened to me, and I'm curious about you, is that everybody has a podcast now. So not this March and not this May, but in 2020, between March, April, May, and June, nobody was doing podcasting like I was. And then
Mm.
come June, everybody got in the game. So I had
Yeah.
about 4 months on everybody doing this, and I was running a podcast for about 5 years prior to that, and releasing episodes weekly. And so
Mm.
now everybody has a podcast, no matter your profession. So there's
Yeah.
more competition. And so I actually had to go outside the US because a lot of people weren't going international. And so I had to seek out cosplayers. I wanted to interview in Australia, the UK, in Japan. I've been trying to get people in India, which is its own difficulty.
Yeah.
Very hard. I actually had to seek out male cosplayers more than female cosplayers, which has been an amazingly difficult task to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And so now I have a bigger presence outside of the United States because of that. So do you feel because of COVID that you have a bigger presence outside the US, or is it all Australia, or where do you think that's going? Because obviously I'm a global product at this point.
Yeah, but isn't it fantastic? Like there is it can be hard sometimes when you feel like you're one in like 1,000 people in the sea, but also having more creators kind of makes you more motivated to do even better and to
Oh, I
achieve
mean,
higher. So
it forced an
yeah,
evolution. It forced an evolution for me, and
yeah.
it's a good thing in the long run. I was always international, where I've interviewed
Mm,
people from all over the world before I was going live, but I wasn't as international as I am now.
mm.
And obviously, I have a more, I don't want to say globalist view, but I have a more, I guess, international view of
Yeah.
the world and how things are done and how Australia and even in the U.S. I have a much larger reign. I think I've done like 30 states from people, and I'm continuously working and getting those other states that I haven't gotten yet, and it's crazy. So I don't know how you feel about all that. Where in many ways the world is your platform right now.
It's so true. I think I already had a little bit of a presence in the United States because I was really big into the series called Gravity Falls. There was a huge Gravity Falls Alex Hirsch fan base, mostly in America and not in Australia. So being part of that community is what puts me on the American platform. But in terms of my idol group, actually, we've been able to do more shows online. And because we're online, people from the States can come watch us perform. So it's definitely helped us
Is
expand.
that
Yeah.
more Twitch oriented?
Twitch, yes, correct.
Yeah, yeah. Twitch has been very much a game changer.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for interviews or comics, but for idol stuff, I would imagine for video games. It's very dominant. I am not very effective on Twitch. I just
Yeah,
don't get
yeah.
Twitch. It's not for me. I am very effective on YouTube. I am very effective in Facebook groups. I am very effective on Twitter. When I tweet things
Mm.
out, things get views. But yeah, no. But I am definitely on an international level. Um,
Yeah, congratulations.
it's very, very interesting.
Very
How
cool.
that has evolved. So obviously we just dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We ran through a gauntlet of material.
Yes, yeah.
We should have done this with your girlfriend.
I'll call her in next time.
We,
She's
we can have a part
way
two. We
more
can have a
insightful
part
than I
two.
am. Yeah, for sure. She's
Whether you're together or not, I mean, we get 3, 4 people in this room. It's wonderful.
yeah, 100%. Should definitely do it. She's way more talented than I am. I cannot sing her praises any higher.
You're just kissing off because that's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
I understand that when I was in a relationship with my girlfriend, I had to compliment her all the time. See, I'm smart because
Exactly.
I understand.
It's a labor of love. Exactly.
I understand that if one day she snaps, I want her to kill, not me. So after watching that show, Snapped, still it's changed my perspective. If you ever
100%.
want to be in a relationship, watch that show and then realize that things can go wrong real quick. It takes one bad day, and then you need a gun to do it.
Exactly. That's why all of the days with her are good days.
So I'm gonna leave it on that note, but I am gonna give you an opportunity to promote yourself. So obviously, where can people
Yes.
find you?
Yes. So
Obviously, Twitter is important, Instagram is important, Twitch is important, websites, Facebook pages, TikTok. I know you got a TikTok. All the cool
so
kids are on TikTok. I have a TikTok too.
oh, fantastic.
So it's awesome. My TikTok is probably not as good as yours, though. I will definitely admit my TikTok is lacking.
I gotta say, I'm a little bit of a millennial when it comes to TikTok. I'm not as good as the hip young kids, but the best way to see my work and what I'm doing is my Instagram, which is Luvkii Cosplay. And then also, if you want to see me perform, I perform on Twitch with Amy's Project. We perform once a month, so definitely check us out there.
And so obviously, I've been saying this. And do you have any like buy me a coffee or anything like that, or a Patreon? Because
Oh, I have. If you want to support my idol group, Amy's, we do have a Patreon. We do letters and checky and like little monthly updates. So that's a great way of getting to know us personally. Me myself, just me. Nah, I don't have any coffee Patreon. I just do it. I just cosplay.
and so obviously on that note, I've been saying it. You got to support indie. You got to support cosplayers.
Mm,
People who have Patreons, you got to support them. Obviously, if
yes.
you're watching on Twitch. I don't know if you could subscribe on Twitch and how that all works. I'm sure that there's something like that with affiliate and sort of subscribing. I'm sure that there's something with that channel, right?
Yes. Yeah. If you want to see us, then support us on Twitch and support us on Patreon with
I'm
Amy's.
sure there's also a membership thing on Twitch for the most part that people can support too. Again, I'm not the Twitch guy. This stuff's on Twitch. I am just horrific at Twitch. So I am not the person you call for Twitch. I am not the person you call for Discord. But having said that, obviously what I've been saying, and I'm going to continue to say it, you have to support indie. And the way you support indie cosplayers and cosplayers in general is you follow their work, you comment on their work, you share their work. It is
Yes.
super important. Obviously, following on TikTok is helpful. Giving a like on TikTok is helpful. Actually watching the TikTok. I mean,
Yes.
it's not hard, everybody. It's not hard. And I will say this, though, about Patreon and all that stuff. Please make sure before you go support a Patreon that you're taking care of yourself first. Take care of your mortgage payment, your rent, your electricity, your water, your shelter, your food. If you got, a loved one, whether that's your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, if you got kids, take care of your kids. If you have a dog, take care of your dog, your cat, take care of your pets. Make sure, you're good for the next month too, because while we are turning the corner, things are going to get back slowly, but, it's not happening overnight. It's going to take some time for things to come back to normal, and things start up slow. So make sure that you are good, because if you're not, and you skip out on your mortgage or your rent, it's going to bite you in the ass. And, it's really important to get on top of that. Also, if you have extra money right now, you could go support Patreons if you would like, and that's great, and you should do that. But if you have debt at the same time, you should be tackling that as well, because right now, especially in the US, and on how it is in Australia, right now you can pay off your student loans for like 0% interest, which means all of it is going to your principal, which means that if you have $10,000 in student loan debt and you put $5,000 in payments to that, you're paying $5,000 of principal. So if you have debt, it's a good time to eliminate debt. So keep that in mind. And on that note, I don't have anything else I would like to say. Obviously, please like this video, please share it. But that's a given. Please like the page that this is on. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
The final word is
or statement or message. It's a catch-all term. Not to pick one word. Yeah, we're very generous here.
My final statement is get into idol culture, text your mom, and stay safe.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I like that message for this. So we're gonna have on that note.
Thank you so much for having me.